And I want to welcome you to Aging Gracefully, a healthy aging class, where we look at some basic postures and how to get us out of our tensions and our tightnesses, our dull aches, and begin to journey into feeling a little bit better so that we can continue to live a very active life. So what I'd like you to think about doing is laying on your back. I'm going to join you. And I'm going to take off my little jacket here. And have something under your head or neck if you choose. Have blocks near you. If you have a belt or a strap, have that near you. Just rearranging. Okay. So I'm going to start with my little blanket under my head because that will feel good to me today. Sometimes I don't have it. Every day is different in your body. So I'd like you just to lift one buttocks and then lower it. You can take your feet slightly wider apart and just rock side to side, just on your lower back. You're not dropping your knees to the ground. You're just rolling along the edge of the top of your pelvis and into your lower back. And the goal here is that you begin to soften, let go of the muscles of the lower back and even into the tailbone region. And then begin to rock your head from side to side. See, now that I settled my lower back, my head's saying, you don't need me. Anything underneath you? What's yours saying? And then gently just bring your feet to a comfortable distance apart. No more rocking of the pelvis or of the head. And just begin your journey to letting go all the way down to the tailbone. So the placement of where your arms are in relation to your torso will also give you feedback to where your nape of your neck to your tailbone is. And as you begin to journey into, on the exhale, letting go, let's say 3 times, on the exhalation. So let's take a nice big inhale and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Inhale. Now you might find, as I just did, that you might have to move your feet, move your buttocks, move your lower back, move your head and your neck. Because as you release even more, your body says, give me space. So space becomes a really important aspect here. So as you're working here from the nape of the neck to the tailbone, I'm going to ask you just to bring your attention to the back of the skull and notice whether you feel the head to be centered. Or do you feel more right of center or more left of center? Just notice what you feel. You're probably not going to want to change it. You might want to, but you probably can't or are not going to. And then draw your attention down on either side of your spinal column, down to your tailbone. So you're resting on the top of the ridge of the pelvis, the posterior pelvic bones, hip bones, and begin to notice the left side and the right side. Do they feel equal? Like they're both the same? Do you feel one more heavier than the other, more dense, more anchored into the floor, like you're listing to one side? Or do they feel higher or lower than the other? Just bring your attention to what you notice here. These are not normal things for us to pay attention to, which is why I am bringing them up. Okay. Once you have that position, once you understand what you feel, begin to watch the breath in the lower abdomen. So you begin to notice it on the inhalation that the lower ribs begin to expand. And then you exhale, you release. So we're not moving into pelvic tilt yet. We're just paying attention to the rise and the fall of the belly. The tailbone is lengthening down away from you. You may have a slight arch, a little tiny arch in the lower back that's neutral spine. You're not trying to arch your back yet. You're not trying to flatten your back yet. You're just observing your breath in the body as it relates to from the nape of the neck to the tailbone and either side of the spinal column. Now, as you begin to journey into that breath, begin to contract the navel center to the spine. Your ribs of the back body begin to press into the floor. Contract the space between the hip joints, which means if you press your feet into the floor, you'll get that. And notice how the pelvic floor pulls in and the tailbone starts to draw away from you. So the lower back is flattening on the earth. When you go to inhale, release the pelvic floor, the hip joints, the navel center, and then begin to arc the lower back. Exhale, contract, navel center, hip joints, pelvic floor. The lower back presses into the floor, the shoulder blades press into the floor, maybe even the tops of the shoulders, and most certainly your feet. Inhale, release, pelvic floor, hip joints, navel center. And now when you go back and forth between the inhale and exhale, do begin to contract a little bit more as you exhale, and do begin to let go a little bit more on your inhale. You'll begin to journey into the movement of your pelvic bones. So we're not just pushing the back into the floor and then releasing it, but you want to let the entire spine from the nape of the neck to the tailbone move. So now as you're working here, the more arch you can get in the lower back, the buttocks and the shoulder blades are staying on the floor, the more you begin to be able to move the spine. The spine should move. What causes discomfort and pain is when we don't move with our spine. We hold it in tension, we hold it in tightness, and so the more we can free that up, the less discomfort we hope to be in. The other thing that's happening here as you're working and you're contracting the hip joints is you begin to notice the inner thighs moving together. That's a really important aspect for your pelvis, for your hip joint, for your knee joint. So the entire body, that pulley system in the body from the nape of the neck, and this time now all the way down to the feet. So notice that when you inhale, begin to tip the chin to the ceiling on your inhale. And when you exhale, begin to lower the chin towards your chest. Now, as you're working here, the back of the neck is arcing a little bit, the lower back is arcing. Notice the soles of your feet. The instep begins to lift. And when you exhale and you pull the navel center to the spine and you're contracting the hip joints and the pelvic floor, the feet are pressing into the floor and the back of the neck becomes long, just like the lower back. So we're making these connections that are occurring between our whole body, the back of our skull, our neck, the top of our shoulders, and our shoulder blades. Let's do about 4 more. Last one. And then release, rock your head from side to side, take your feet not as wide as the mat, just a little bit wider than they were, and rock on your lower back, because you've just spent a lot of time working forward and back and contracting and pulling everything into center. So now we're just releasing it, okay? When you're done releasing, straighten your legs, stretch your arms overhead, contract navel center to spine as best you can. Notice how the shoulders roll away from the ears, and stretch one side longer than the other. When you're done here, interlace your hands and walk your shoulder blades over to the right. So you're literally moving your shoulder blades, arcing your body over to the right. Then move your legs to the right, but keep your left leg hip width apart. Don't try to bring your left leg really close to your right. Toes turn up to the ceiling. Your head is not turned. It is up to the ceiling. Drop your left buttocks down towards the floor and breathe into your entire left side. So you really feel between the lower rib cage and the hip joints a nice, hopefully a nice stretch. And if you don't feel that stretch, can I have your body? Some people don't. They're really open in this area. But if you've had shoulder issues, elbow issues, wrist issues, heart issues, maybe you've had breast cancer, very common, unfortunately. The breast tissue gets really tight here. Fractures, all of those kinds of things get really tight. And maybe you're tight and I haven't mentioned anything that's happening in your body. It doesn't matter. What matters is what are you feeling? Breathe into that, expanding and contracting. And then you'll inhale the upper body back to center, the lower body back to center. And then we'll do the other side. So now we'll arch to the left. Bring the legs over to the left. Drop your right buttocks. Toes point up to the ceiling. Head points up to the ceiling. And as you drop the right buttocks, breathe into the sensations on your right side. Now, if you want to, you can take a few deep breaths here. And then inhale back to center. Release your hands. Place your feet back on the floor. Back to constructive rest pose. Your hands can be on your belly. They can be out at your sides. Inhale, tip your head, lower back, notice the feet. Exhale, contract, back of neck, lower back, feet. Inhale and exhale. One last time, inhale and exhale. Bring the knees into the chest, take your elbows to the floor, rock side to side, and then place your hands right on the front of your thighs and inhale, tip your chin, whether you have something under your head or not, that's up to you. Push your knees away, the arch of the lower back, drop your chin, bring your knees into the chest. So you're going back and forth. Just 2 more times. And if you wanted to, you could straighten your legs and do it as well. Okay, put your feet on the floor. Take your block or your folded blanket or a couple of throw pillows. And if you don't have any of that today, no problem, you'll do it without. Okay, same pose, but you'll do it without. Feels a little different. But you're going to take that block or whatever you have and place it underneath your tailbone. Put it in a position that feels good to you. You should not hurt. If it hurts, it's either too high or too harsh. In other words, it's hard. Like I have a really heavy wood block. Okay. Once you're there, let's stick your arms into goalposts for just a moment. If you're not doing goalposts because your hands don't reach the floor or your forearms don't reach the floor, have your arms down alongside of you. This helps us to draw our attention to opening up the collarbones and releasing the shoulders, releasing the muscles of the back. Now, if I begin to contract navel center to spine, hip joints draw in, the pelvic floor draws in, you can see how you're scooping your tailbone, right? Like you're doing bridge. Well, this is it's a restorative bridge. Okay. When you're ready, release your arms, release your pelvis, bring your right knee over your hip or towards, but don't go too close to your body. Wrap your hands around your thigh. If you don't have the ability to bring your hands behind your thigh, use a strap, use a towel. You can get a towel and hold the towel, but make sure your thumbs, if you're holding a towel or a strap, that your thumbs are towards your toes, not towards your shoulders. Your foot, your right foot is dropping down, not to the floor, just down. I don't want to see anybody holding it up. Dropping it down, and then straighten your left leg. Now, if you have significant knee issues and you feel that you would like support under your left knee, use your bolster, use pile blankets, pile pillows, whatever you need to support your knee. Now, contract navel center to spine. Feel that tailbone drawing down, and begin to notice if you have any sensations in the inner left thigh. Maybe you have it in the right hip, but make sure your knee is in line with your ear. Your knee is not in line with your heart. So we're not trying to pull the knee or the foot, the right foot, towards center. We're keeping it in line with our right side. Your toes will point up and just begin to let go. As you exhale, say, ah. With slow, deep, even breaths, do that 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. Ah. Inhale. Exhale. Ah. And then bring the left foot back onto the floor. Let go of the right. Go to the other side. So as I push the left thigh into the hands and the hands into the thigh, it allows me to drop my shoulders. If your arms are long enough, which mine are, you can actually walk your shoulder blades towards each other, opening yourself up a little bit more. If you're on a towel or a strap, by bringing the knee away from your body, you actually can feel more opening. Notice if you feel anything on the inside of your right thigh. And then bring your right foot up, release your left leg. Contract navel center to spine so that you're supporting the muscles of your hips, your thighs, your back, and shoulders, and lift your buttocks to take out whatever underneath you. Slowly lower to the floor. Roll out of the pelvic tilt, tipping your chin, your lower back. Notice how your feet are not pressing into the floor. And then release. Before we begin to come up, I want you to feel something. Take your hands to your thighs. And as you exhale, push the palms of your hands into your thighs. So I'm contracting navel center to spine. And as I push my hands into the thighs, I also feel the inner thighs working towards each other, the hip bones coming towards each other, and everything is pulling in. Inhale, release. Exhale, contract. Inhale, release. Exhale, contract. Inhale, release. Take your feet now as wide as the mat. Take your arms out to your side. If you had something under your head, maybe take that out and drop your knees to the right. So now don't hike the left hip up to the right. So if you are somebody that's doing that, you might want to put something under your right thigh and or lift your left knee slightly. Okay? So as I contract navel center to spine, I can feel my left shoulder, left collarbone opening. my left shoulder blade drawing down, and my left inner thigh drawing away. So it's not about how far over you get, it's just about how do I get open in my lower back. Let's take 2 more breaths here. And then when you're done, lift your knees up, readjust, and go to the other side. So now my right shoulder, my right shoulder blade, my right inner thigh, as my knees go to the left. And take a breath or 2 more. And then bring your knees up when you're done. Travel over to one side and just remain on your side. Maybe take a blanket or a pillow under your head. And just take a moment here before coming up into table. So for those of you who don't like to be on your knees here, this would be a good time to come to a chair. We're going to do cat and cow from a chair. And I have to move my mat. All right, so let's come into table. We're on our hands and knees, but knees are barely apart. Strongly contract navel center to spine, round the head. So notice how you're flattening the back of the neck, flattening the lower back as it pulls in. Inhale, release. Head comes up, shoulder blades come towards each other, tailbone comes up. So notice how you have these similar arches that you just had on the floor, back of neck and lower back. We'll do 2 more. If you are somebody who does downward dog, feel free to come into downward dog with bent knees. But from here, we're just going to come all the way up to standing. So once you come into your downward dog, you're going to walk your feet to your hands, or you're just coming up to standing. Any way you can get there. All right, come into your standing posture. Let's look at this from a standing place. In my studio classes this week, we're working on the same issue of the neck and the spine. And I have a lot of people who have all of these issues, the shoulder issues, the neck issues, the knee issues, the back. Some have double knee replacements. Some of them, just have they're really tight. And one of the comments yesterday morning was, I feel like I can do more. And this came from a woman who has double knee replacements, who has been doing yoga for a while. Her comment was, I feel like I can be stronger. And that's what we want to see if we can find in ourselves. So push your heels away. Take your hands, make a little ball here. All right. The ball's not out here. It's pretty close to your body. So your elbows are just right at your sides. Push your heels and notice I'm not making my hands go. I'm not doing this. It's my feet. So as I push my heels away, the arch lifts. Now my quadriceps, my legs begin to feel stronger. My tailbone, as I push my heels away, moves, my heart lifts. So all of these things are happening, which is what was happening on the floor. So just see where you are. Just notice where you can go and notice where it's more challenging for you to go. Okay? So push your heels away. And this time, open up the arms, turn your palms up, rotate from your wrist. So we're going to inhale and rotate the thumbs back. Inhale up, exhale, rotate the thumbs backwards. So you'll notice that as you inhale, the palms turn up, you're pushing your heels at all times. And your shoulders don't want to come up now. So if you're somebody who has your arms up here, you're going to feel very congested. Keep going. You're going to feel very congested in your neck and your shoulders. You're going to feel a lot of tightness. So no matter where you are, drop your arms down, lower your hands thinking about lowering your hands, and notice how much more open you might feel. If you don't feel open, you're probably not in the right place. One more. Now from here, bring your arms into goal post. Okay. And then release. Roll your shoulders, shake out your legs, just move around any way you want, just move around. Take your hands onto your hips, bend your knees, and tip your tailbone up. Tip your tailbone down. So you're going back and forth. Now, as you do this, we're going to move our head. So as I tip my tailbone up, tip the chin. As I tip the tailbone down, lower the chin. So we're not dropping the head. We're dropping the chin. If I drop my head, I get a pull, and I don't like that feeling. So it's just tipping up and tipping down. So you'll notice that when you tip down, there is a slight contraction in the center of your body, okay? Now, whether you're doing this sitting or standing doesn't matter. It's the same thing that you did on the floor. All right, take your feet a little wider apart. So if you have been sitting, you may want to choose to come to standing. And don't move the arms. Just lift the heel. I'm rotating on my toes. So I'm lifting and lowering. And my arms aren't moving because I'm not twisting too far. As soon as I start to twist more, you begin to see the arms move. So you go where you can go. And this works in the lower back. Now my head is going with me because it sort of does that, right? Your head goes wherever you go because it's attached to the spine. So the tailbone to the nape of the neck are connected. Not telling you anything you don't know, but we want them to move with us. Okay? So from here, push your heels away, put your hands on your shoulders. You can go back to sitting for some of you. Push your heels away, bring your elbows in, up and around. One more in this direction, and we'll go in the opposite direction. Are you hearing any clicking, clanging, tension? And now release. Let the arms go forward and back. Every time you exhale, drop your shoulders. And then when you're ready, inhale behind your head if it works for you, or just lifting your arms. So just trying to get into the shoulder joint. I like to work with activating my legs, so I'm pushing my heels away. One more. And then really shake out your head, shake out your body. Push your heels away and bring your hands, we haven't done this for a while, so right under your breastbone. You feel it sinks in here. Right? There's a big hole here. But then if I go over towards my rib cage, it feels wiry. It feels like ropiness. It feels like it's taut. It's a muscle. That's the top of your psoas muscle. I want you to draw a straight line down to the inside of your hip bones. So if this is my pelvis, if I was a skeleton, I am deep inside, but if I'm a skeleton, I have my outside hip bone, and then right traveling through that is the psoas muscle, all the way down into my inner thigh. So if you push your hand in your inner thigh here, it feels very soft, right? And if you go over to more to the inside, it gets ropey. That's the psoas muscle. It's a very long muscle. And so the connections that you're making when you push your heels away and contract the navel center, lengthen the psoas muscle on the front of the body and on the back of the body. The back of the body, it wraps around to the front. But supposedly you say to me, Pam, put your hands right on your lower rib cage, down, straight down to the top of your pelvis. I'm really tight in here. Well, the more we arch, right, the more we do cat and cow, the more we're letting these muscles go. That's your quadratus lumborum. And that muscle gets tight, very tight as well, okay? So we're gonna target some of those muscles in a moment. We're gonna start by doing tree. So if you can use a wall, if you have a wall, you can use the chair, or you can not use anything. Okay. So let's just start with our hands in our little sphere. Push your heels away. So notice you got taller, your collarbones opened, your shoulder blades went down. Notice how your quadriceps, the front of your legs, just engage. Okay. Shift over onto your right leg, bend your left knee. Rotate by pivoting the toes, pivot the toes out and place the heel right over your ankle. This is the one if you have a block and you want to work a little deeper. Your heel is still touching your shin, but your toes are on the block. And this is good for people who want to start working a little bit more and they can't really hold here and they definitely aren't going here. All right. So bring your hands into your ball, your sphere, pull the belly in. Notice your quadricep gets long. And then if you want, open up into goalposts. Or some of you may wish to raise your arms up. But if you raise your arms up, drop your shoulders, right? So that psoas muscle is opening, is lengthening. This leg is getting stronger. This muscle is getting open, all right? And the back of the body, keep staying there, and the back of the body begins to lengthen here, okay? All right, so come on down. And let's go to the other side. So we make a sphere again. Push your heels away, getting nice and tall. And if you're going to use that block, put your heel right over onto the inside of your shin, the inseam of your leg, of your pant leg. Make sure you're contracted. So you're pressing down, getting strong, lengthening. Some of you have been doing this for a while. You might find that you can contract. You can feel that energy pulling you in. When you pull in, you get stronger in this leg. You're going to affect the hip joint muscles. So they all come together. And then bring your hands into prayer position, goalpost, or overhead for, 3 to 5 breaths is a good amount. So we stretch the long muscles, the lateral muscles. When you bring your hands up and drop your shoulders, you get another stretch there as well. Okay. When you're done, come on down. We're going to come into forward bend. So push your heels away, bring your arms out to the sides, halfway rotate from the wrist, bring the fingertips all the way up or into goalpost, bend your knees. As you bend your knees, stick your butt out, but pull the belly in and take the torso parallel to the floor. Now, I am somebody who has more open hamstrings. So as I lift my sit bones and I contract, I get to go further down. You might not. So now I work the backs of my legs no matter where I'm at. If your chair is near you, you can come into a downward dog, right? If you want to, and I'm just going to come down there because I don't have my chair here. I'm going to walk back into downward facing dog on my mat, but you might have your chair. And then walk back up to standing. Take your arms out to the sides and come on up. Roll your shoulders up, back, and down. Let's come to a chair. If you don't have a chair, you can do the same postures on the floor. Not a problem. A chair just sometimes is nice because we do spend a good portion of our day, whether we're working in an office or not. These postures are good for us. So I'm going to show you 2 different positions. The first one is a lunge. So if you don't want to use your chair, you're just doing a basic lunge. Front knee. In this case, I'm going to have my my outside leg. This is my right leg. Dropping straight down. I'm holding the back of my chair. My left knee is directly over my left ankle. Same posture if you're on the floor. And I'm going to start to contract navel center, lifting my heart, dropping my shoulders. So this is really good for people who have a lot of tightness in their hip. You do a lot of sitting and you just need something, make sure your chair's not moving, of course. You just are letting go. You're just letting everything drop down. So if you're really tight in here, especially after the work we just did, this really is nice. You can also turn your toes under and press your heel back, or I'm going to today press my heel back, not just turn my toes under, but press my heel back. And now I get more of a stretch in my back as well as the top of my thigh. Doesn't matter which one you are doing. What matters is what you're getting from it. Your hand can be here. One of the things that I've been working with you on is putting your hand behind your skull, separate your fingers wide, push the hand into the head and the head into the hand as you pull the belly in, because that gets you into the shoulders and shoulder blades. Some of you like to be in goalpost. Some of you like to lift your arm. This is just a nice place to be, especially if you have neck issues, because now you can tell where the head is, okay? When you're done, lower the arm, bring that back leg up. And if you've been in lunge on the floor, you can step back to table or downward facing dog. For those of us sitting in a chair, notice the total difference on the side. I said it was my right leg, but obviously it was my left leg for you, because it's opposite for the camera. All right, so let's try the other side. Whichever leg you didn't do before, do now, because you only have two. So you had a 50-50 shot, right? All right, so I'm just going to dangle to get started my hip. Again, if you're doing lunge on the floor, it's a basic lunge. You can have something under your knee if you'd like. Hold on to the back of the chair, knee directly over your ankle. Knee is also in line with your hip joint, no matter which way you're doing it. The knee is over the ankle. You can turn your toes under, or you can turn your toes under and push your heel back, which allows that psoas muscle. That's what lunge is about. It's about lengthening, getting into the hip. The problem is that most of us don't contract. We just sort of hang out here, and then we get tight because we're weak. So the contraction, no matter how you're doing it, is a way for the body to pull or knit itself together, okay? And then your arm can be wherever you would like it to be. And we'll take a couple of breaths here, whether it's here, here, or here. When you're done, release your arm, bring your leg back up, and let's turn forward. If you are on your mat, go into child's pose. If you're sitting in a chair, we're going to do a chair child's pose. We're going to take our feet wider than hip width apart. Make sure your toes are not turned out, okay? Because this is externally rotating you, and that's a whole different posture. So keep your big toes in a straight line with the inside of the heel. Again, contract navel center to spine. If you can, your hip joints. Walk your sit bones backwards and tip your chest forward. So your torso is coming forward and you're here. Now, if you are somebody that wants to go further, you can slide your upper arms into your thighs and your thighs into your upper arms. Dangle your head. You can say yes and no to dangle your head and press the ball of the big toe down. So no matter where you are, you have whatever sensation feels right to you. If you did come further down like I did, put one elbow on one knee, the other elbow on the other knee, then one hand, and then we're all going to get nice and long. So if you are on the floor in child's pose, you can come into downward facing dog and back up to standing and stretch one side longer than the other. If you're saying, I don't really feel like doing that, lay on the floor, lay on your back and stretch one side longer than the other. And then come forward. I want to show you this. I know some of you can do this and some of you cannot, that are typically here on a weekly basis. But it is a nice hip opener. So if I turn back, if I keep my body, I'm moving forward on my chair. I'm going to take my left leg out I'm going to turn this leg out so that my knee, my hip and my knee are in a line. This is a warrior two. I know some of you don't feel comfortable in this position, but if again, I'm going to show it. I'll show it on the other side. You sit forward on your chair. Just take one leg straight out. Keep your toes in this position. Don't turn your toes out. Just walk your foot out so you get a stretch on the inner thigh. Really good hip joint opener. Walk this foot, keeping it bent. And here we are. Our hips are forward. Our arms come out and we gaze over our fingertips. This is the same as when we're standing, warrior two. Okay. So let's try each side again. Just take this leg and slide it out. So if you can't do the whole posture, think about just sitting. I'm really sitting pretty short on my chair. I'm pretty forward. Just slide that leg out and in. Okay. So whatever you're on, if you're on your mat, you're not going to slide, right? That's I'm on my floor, right? Just slide it out and in, and then go to the other side. Notice if one side moves easier than the other. Okay. Now, as I slide one leg out, this leg, I can either just stay right here, because I'm just opening, again, that inner thigh muscle, or I can start to turn my toes 90 degrees. These toes, I can have wherever they want to be, but I can turn my toes in, it will feel better. So my big toes in a straight line. So wherever is comfortable for you on the back leg, but the front, the big toe and the heel are in a straight line, and you see you got 90-degree angles. Okay. If you want to, you can bring your arms up, and I'm pressing into my back leg. That gives me a deeper stretch in here, in my lower psoas muscle. When you're ready to come back in, I like to do the Charleston, right? Because that releases the pressure of both. And then slide the other one. And then lower. Bring your legs in. Charleston again. This time, bring your feet hip width apart and parallel, and see if your torso wants to pull in, and see if your torso wants to come forward. If that doesn't work for you, stay contracted, pull in, because you just opened. Now we want to contract again. You can even put your knees together and your feet apart and try to lift up. All right, let's lean back on our chair. Put your hands on your belly. Straighten your legs. Begin to contract. Pull everything in. Notice how the tailbone begins to slide towards the front of your seat of your chair, and raise your arms up. Okay. When you're done, come forward again, just for a moment or so. And if you don't feel like you want to do that, that's fine. We're going to come back onto, we're going to do one posture on our belly. We're going to do Sphinx, and then we're going to come onto our backs. So let's remove the chair if you're using, and come onto your belly. And bring your hands right out in front of you. Your toes are flat. Your legs might be a little bit wider than hip width apart. Either close your eyes or soften your eyes to the tip of your nose and begin to contract navel center to spine. So now you feel your hip joints anchoring onto the floor. You feel your tailbone extending down, and you feel your heart lifting. So the work that you just did where we opened, now we're pulling everything in again. So the pelvic floor pulls in, hip joints pull in, navel center pulls in. And if you're somebody who wants to work a little deeper here, you're going to turn don't move your elbows, just turn your fingertips towards the pointy edge of your mat. Rise up. So you get some arm strength going. If you're somebody who wants to go deeper into a deeper back bend, then bend your knees. So the more I can pull the belly in, the more I can lift, the more I can drop my shoulders. Wherever you are is a good place to be. Doesn't matter. Maybe I'm just right here. All right, from here, when you're done, come into crocodile. Open up your legs wide, turn your toes out and your heels in, forehead on your forearms. And just breathe into your lower abdomen. No more contraction. Now you are just letting go, finding your breath. So you can sense the belly expanding into the floor. You can feel the belly expanding out to the sides of the ribs and into the lower back. Now, I know some of you really like this posture, and this posture is a nice place to go when you feel tired, or you just need to turn the world off, which is probably a lot today. So when I want to pull into myself, this is a wonderful place to go. When you're ready, just roll onto your back for final position. Of relaxation. So put your socks on if you have a jacket on. Excuse me, cover yourself with a blanket. Put something under your head. If you want to bring your knees into your chest, if you want to rock side to side, if you feel like there's anything else that you need to accomplish in your body before Shavasana, you may wish to do that. Each time you practice, one of the things to really consider doing is once you're in Shavasana, in relaxation posture, notice all the sensations you have. Those sensations represent places in your body that you have worked, that you have strengthened, that you have stretched, that need your attention. Trying to figure out, do I need to stretch? Do I need to strengthen? Is, in my estimation, as a yoga student, the hardest thing to do. So notice for you, what worked, what didn't work. Did it not work because you couldn't contract enough? Did it not work because of where your body is? Did it not work because it just didn't work? And what did work? And focus on what did work. And build on what did work. Try to look for answers as to why did it work? And how do I take that into postures that are more challenging for me? The challenging poses could be poses that I shouldn't be doing, or they could be poses that you actually need to do, but differently. Now let all of that go and notice from the nape of the neck to the tailbone, either side of the spinal column. The muscles, soften them. Inhale. Let go. During the practice, we pulled in almost every posture. Now it's about softening, surrendering to let go. Back of the head, top of the shoulders, upper arms, elbow joints, forearms, wrist joint, back of hand, fingertips, palm of hand. Maybe the fingertips curl and you want to touch the first finger and the thumb. Notice wrist joint, elbow joint, shoulder joint. Let go and let them be heavy. As the arms rest on the floor, notice the throat, allowing the front of the throat to release to the back of the neck. And down to the front of the chest, to the breastbone, to the top of that psoas muscle. And soften the breastbone to the back of the spine, to the space between the shoulder blades. Ah. Ah. Notice the shoulder blades drilling down into the floor and down towards your spine. Noticing the lower abdomen rise on the inhalation, fall on the exhalation. Notice the ribs of the front of the body softening to the ribs of the side body as you exhale, and the side ribs releasing into the ribs of the back of the body on the exhale. Allowing the front of the body to subtly release to the back body, and the back body release into the floor. And bring your attention about 2 inches below the navel center between the hip joints and out to the hip joints. Allowing the left hip to move to the left and the right hip to move to the right. Down the inner thighs to the backs of the knees, and from the backs of the knees down to the ankles and out the toes and the toe tips. Rest at your toes and your toe tips. And then draw your awareness from the toes and the toe tips to your ankles, through the backs of the legs to your tailbone. Rest here for a moment at your tailbone. Do you feel the tailbone being centered? Or do you feel more right of center or left of center? Just notice. No judgment, just notice. And then say to yourself, buttock cheeks, let go, release. Let go of whatever you're holding on to in your buttocks. And then travel further up to your lower back, to the solar plexus. Letting go here, where also a lot of muscle strain happens here. And release. travel a little further up to the space of the back of the heart, between the shoulder blades, and see if you can release even a little bit more here. And travel up to the back of the neck and to the center of the mind, that point between the eyebrows, deep in the skull, allowing the eyes to retreat in, softening the eyelids, the eyebrows, and the eyelashes. And just allow the breath at the base of the nostrils and at the lower abdomen to be watched by the eyebrow center with slow, deep, even breaths. As the floor now holds you, you can witness your body breathing. Knowing that you are not asleep, but that you are resting. But now it is time to move to the next portion of your day. So slowly rock your head from side to side. Wiggle your fingers and your toes. And slowly stretch your body. Maybe you give one big yawn. Bring your knees into your chest. And slowly roll over to your side. Stay on your side and observe your mind, your body, and your breath. And then slowly push yourself up to sitting, whether sitting on your props or on a chair, which is also a prop. Find your way into sensing the elongation of your spine from the nape of the neck to the tailbone. And your breath in the lower abdomen expanding, front of the body, sides of the body, back of the body. Bring your hands to your heart or into prayer position, giving thanks to your mind, to your body, to the breath, and to the practice. Namaste.